Let's roll, baby. Welcome in. It is the Championship Sunday edition of Ringer Wise Guys, right here for your friends on FanDuel TV. The boys are ready to go. We got two outstanding games to break down. Let's welcome in Cousin Sal, Joe House, Raheem Palmer. Of course, I'm JJ, John Jastremski. And boys, all in all, you get two outstanding matchups here, Championship Sunday. It's a bummer, Sal. We only have 3 football games left in this 2023 season. But I think all in all, if you were to go back to the start of the postseason, Lions, Niners, Chiefs, Ravens, I think we all would have signed for that.
Yeah, it's fine. I just hate that it's ending. I mean, if we talk really slowly, will it not end? I hate that I get depressed this time of year. There's 3 games left, and one of them, JJ, might be the rat line of the century. We're going to get to that immediately, I think.
We have a rat line. There's no doubt about it as we get ready for Championship Sunday. The star of this postseason, Joe House. You know, I love guys who shine when the lights are upon them. That's why Derek Jeter is near and dear to my heart. He would take his game to another level when we would hit the postseason. You, my friend, have taken your game to another level here this January.
Well, look, past performance is not indicative of future outcomes, but we are very grateful to the gambling gods for giving us all of the good graces that they've shown us up to this date. We have 2 magical games. All we can do is try and keep it going, JJ.
And that is what you will try to do when you give us our wisest wagers and some props and all that good mumbo jumbo. Raheem, I know you are sitting on a future, and you have a phrase and a terminology that I think some of us might remember here throughout the season on Ringer Wise Guys. Hedging is for gardeners. Fair to say there may not be any hedging for you when it comes to the Chiefs at 10-1 for the Super Bowl.
It's unfortunate, but I'm going to be a gardener today because I am hedging those Chiefs futures. I have the Chiefs 10-1 to win the Super Bowl, and I have them plus 450 to win the AFC. So I think this is a good time as 4.5-point underdogs to hedge those futures, lock in a little bit of profit, and then still give yourself a chance to win the 10-1 on the Super Bowl.
Wow, I never thought I'd see the day. Our guy, Raheem Palmer, is working on his shrubbery or whatever the hell he's got going on in the backyard in Philly. You are a hedger. You are a gardener. I can't believe we are living in this world. All right, guys, let's get right to it. It's time to wisen up for Championship Sunday. Oh, before we wisen up, we got a rundown to do. I forgot. I mean, I'm too excited for these picks.
Do the rundown. JJ, do the rundown.
There we go. I'm making that note, and we go from there. You see, I got a little ahead of myself. We have the Conference Championship Wise Wagers. They will be coming up momentarily. What else do we have coming up? We have player props. Lamar Jackson rushing yards. Travis Kelce, monster game against Buffalo. Can he do it again? We got guest picks from our fantasy football guys. Craig Horlback, Danny Kelly. Hopefully they will provide some outstanding wisdom. And then we'll have Brian Barrett after the show wraps up in our digital time on our digital platforms, breaking down some more picks, some more props, and maybe give us a sense and a feel for what's going on with those lowly, pathetic New England Patriots. All right, since I got ahead of myself, now we can actually be on time. Let's get to our wise wager for the AFC Championship game. All right, I obviously jumped the gun. I know where you're going on this, Sal. I'm going to spoil it for the party. It's a family play for you and I, a family play right out of the gate. What could go wrong? What is your pick for the Ravens and the Chiefs?
First of all, I looked at the calendar. It doesn't say April 1st, but to make this line 4.5, the Ravens favored by 4.5 over the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that's gone to the AFC Championship game now 6 times in a row, a team that's his numbers are insane against the spread and straight up as an underdog. Does FanDuel have any respect for Taylor Swift at all? All she's done for the great game of football? I say no, and yet I say yes to betting on the Ravens minus 4.5 games. We said this is a cognitive test for NFL bettors here because someone's going to look really dumb here laying 4.5 or taking it. I already picked my score, 30-17 final. So as long as the spread doesn't go to 12.5, I think I have to stick with the Ravens here. Kansas City has been impressive defensively this season, but most of its success is against the pass. The Chiefs 28th in EPA against the run. The Ravens 3rd overall in EPA running the football. Hill, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, Dalvin Cook, they're all going to get their chunk plays. And of course, Lamar Jackson could hit triple digits on the ground. We'll get into props later. But the Ravens also allowed a season low 5.2 yards per pass attempt. Mahomes' air yards goes down every year. But you know what? I don't think it's going to matter. I think they're going to play keep away. Can we bet time of possession? Because I think it's going to be like 38-22 in favor of the Ravens. It's not going to be a fun game. People are going to be like, what happened? The Chiefs never had the ball. Ravens are going to run it down their throat, take the ball away from the Chiefs. Baltimore's first home game in the AFC Championship since the year I was born 109 years ago. Lamar Jackson leaves no doubt to that MVP tag. 30-17, like I said, JJ. Ravens win, go to the Super Bowl.
Well, Sal, I might need one of those cognitive tests when we are done with Ringer Wise guys, because I'm going to take it a step further. This is my game of the year for this show.
Wow.
Game of the year. I want it on record. I want everybody to know it. I am dropping the mic. I am flexing. The Kansas City Chiefs have the greatest quarterback I've seen since Tom Brady, and a quarterback that's been to 6 straight AFC Championship games and is the best quarterback I think I've ever seen when it comes to covering numbers as an underdog. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm taking all that. I'm throwing it in the garbage because it's Baltimore's time. The Ravens, hands down, no questions asked, have been the best team in the AFC all year. And look at what they have done to teams that have come into their building. They absolutely smoked the Detroit Lions. They absolutely smoked the Miami Dolphins. They smoked the Houston Texans in the second half of that game. And if it wasn't for a punt return, I think they would have had a 30 or a 40-point margin. I think Baltimore, from what Lamar Jackson could do running the football, the 2 running backs they bring to the table, that defense that's ferocious, that's physical, the idea that they are at home playing this game. I understand Kansas City's got Juju. I understand they have Patrick Mahomes. Let's take a deeper look at who Kansas City has kind of gone through here in these particular matchups. They got a beat-up Miami team. They got a beat-up Buffalo team. They really did not do much throughout the course of the regular season. And I get it. Mahomes, come January, Chiefs, come January, they are able to flip the switch. But I am looking at this game and saying, wow, you get Patrick Mahomes grabbing 4.5 points. Doesn't that seem a little too good to be true? It is too good to be true. Fellas, game of the year. That's right. Game of the year. Baltimore Ravens. They win by 2 scores. That's right. Drop the mic. House, you're playing it differently. Maybe not as confident as I am. You were hesitant on East Coast bias to go and play a side in this matchup. But now it's time for you to go and make a pick. What do we got?
JJ, I admire the courage and conviction of my fellow wise men willing to go out in this manner. I'm taking the easy way out. I'm looking at one of the most profitable in terms of return on investment angles with these Baltimore Ravens over this season, and that is simply looking at the Ravens to cover the first half spread at -2.5, something that they have done at an incredible rate this season. Let's look at the gaudy numbers. The Ravens were 14-4 against the spread in the first half this season, almost an 80% rate with a point differential of over 8 points per game. If you leave out the nonsense week 18 against the Steelers, that means they were beating teams at halftime by more than 8 points this season. And this is not, JJ and wise men, a single season aberration under Coach Harbaugh. Since 2008, this team covers in the first half. They come in prepared. They come in and take care of business. A very good organization. The number for under Harbaugh, almost 60%, 50 games above 500 against the spread in first half. So, of course, Lamar has a similar excellent record, 64% against the spread, covering by an average of 2.5 points per game. And situationally, I love the fact that this did not hit last week. Last week was a classic shake off the rust situation for the Ravens. They came out slow and deliberate on offense. They had to adjust to the blitz of a team in Houston that had been playing life or death games for a month. In every instance this season where Baltimore failed to cover a first half spread, They came back and took care of it the next week. This is the Chiefs' second road playoff game. This is the fourth consecutive home game for the Ravens. The Chiefs 1-7 against the spread in the first half of their last 8 games. They had to adjust to missing their top-rated left guard, Joe Thuney, against a defense that's best in the NFL. Ravens -2.5 first half. I'm going to get to halftime and reward myself with a beautiful crab cake when Baltimore brings this home for me.
Well, it's already halftime. They played the first half during your whole diatribe, so good job by you. I hope
Hey,
you got
listen,
the bet in.
thank you, Professor House. With
Take
your
that for data.
postseason, you're allowed. You're allowed. You're
Yeah.
allowed. And one note, the Joe Thuney injury, that is a gigantic deal for the Kansas City Chiefs. You're talking about one of the best guards in the NFL. He is not going to be able to give it a go. Well, Raheem, considering that House is on a Raven first half, Sal and I are on the Ravens for the game, that's good news for your hedging, your Gardner type ways as you get ready for Championship Sunday. But your wisest wager is not going to be with the side. It's going to be with the total.
Yes, I'm going to go with the over 44.5. When you look at the full season metrics, it might make you think that this is an under, but I'm not buying it because when you look at the Chiefs historically in postseason games, out of 16 games in Mahomes' postseason stretch, they've only gone under 44 in 4 of those games. And you have 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL going head up here. This feels like a quiet shootout. And this Chiefs offense has really improved over the last 4 weeks. They played the Bengals. They put up 25 against them. They put up 26 against the Dolphins. They put up 27 against the Bills. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, the Dolphins were decimated. The Bills were decimated. Well, the Ravens, when I look at their schedule, it's not like they've played a ton of top-tier offenses, but when they have shown that they can be had. You look at Joe Burrow. You go back to week 2. This guy was coming off of a calf injury and still put up 24 points. You look at the game against Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson has been horrible for much of this year. He put up 33 points. You look at the Rams. Matthew Stafford put up 31 points in rainy conditions. Josh Dobbs, Arizona Cardinals, 24 points. And then the Colts, they put up 22 in rainy conditions as well. So I feel like the floor here for the Chiefs is about 21 points or so, maybe even a little higher than that. So I think 21 to 24 points for the Chiefs will get you there. And we know this Ravens team is going to be able to score. You look at this Chiefs defense. They can't stop the run at all. 26 in EPA per play and 28 in success rate. And you look at last week against the Bills, that defensive line was just getting pushed back. And then you got Willie Gay. He could be out for this game. He was the spy. So you have to worry about that run game with Gus Edwards, but then you also have to worry about Lamar Jackson being able to scramble. And for the first time in his career, he has actual weapons and a decent offensive coordinator. You look at Zay Flowers, you look at Odell Beckham, Mark Andrews is playing, Isaiah Likely. The Chiefs defense, they've been solid. Like, I know this is a team that hasn't given up too many points this year, but they gave up 24 points to the Bills last week, and the Bills didn't score the entire fourth quarter. So I think this total's a little bit short at 44.5. I know the full season metrics will let you believe this is an under, but I'm not buying it. We're going with the over, 44.5.
All right, Raheem, since you're going with the over, I think it's fair to say you believe what we've seen from Kansas City offensively over the last few weeks is sustainable, and they're not the same offense that maybe they were September through December. Is that fair?
Yes, I'm definitely putting weight on those last 4 games. And I think even in some of those games, they left meat on the bone. So I do think this Chiefs offense is is being a little bit underrated because I think they've really found something. Look, champions figured it out. Like, I know you can't look back at, last year or the year before, but this team's going to 6 straight AFC championship games. They figure it out, and I think the offense is going to figure out. Whether they win or cover, I'm not sure. I'm not going to worry about that, but I do think this is an over.
Sal, you mentioned ball control.
Yeah.
You looking at this game as an under, or are you staying away from the total?
I think I had 30-17 as a final, but and I think that includes. Well, first of all, I should point out, you talk about House taking it to another level with his picks. I have also taken my picks to another level, except it's deep, deep, deep into the toilet. That level. I am now, I think, 4-16. So take everything with a grain of salt that's been thrown in my eyes here. But yeah, I do think it's going to be 30-17, which includes a backdoor cover by the Chiefs throwing late. So,
wow, where it goes completely overwhelming. Now, Raheem, final one before we get to a player prop. You have that Kansas City ticket that we gave out wild card weekend at 10-1. Is the way to approach this from a hedging perspective, grab Baltimore on the money line immediately, let this game marinate maybe in the first quarter, hope and pray Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs go right down the field and score a touchdown? For anybody that has the Kansas City ticket at 10-1, but maybe doesn't necessarily like Kansas City in this game, how would you approach the hedge as we're sitting there watching it and you're monitoring on FanDuel and you're trying to figure out what I should do?
Well, House already broke down what the Baltimore Ravens do in the first half at home. So I think you could put yourself in a bad spot if you go out there and say, I'm going to wait for Patrick Mahomes to score first, because that may not happen. So I would just grab the Baltimore Ravens on the money line. You can find like minus 200 out there, and I would take it from there, just because you don't want to put yourself in a position to where you just don't have a chance to hedge at all. And we know this Ravens team is a first half juggernaut.
Fellas, we transition from our wisest wagers for the Ravens and the Chiefs to the prop market. And I'm going with the obvious. We talked about the Chiefs and their struggles with the run, and the Ravens and their brilliance as far as running the football. I'm looking at Lamar Jackson over rushing yards as the prop that I am all over for when it comes to Championship Sunday. You're seeing it at 66.5 rushing yards. And I know people on the surface are going to say, wow, that's a lot of yards. Is he going to be able to hit that over 4 quarters? These quarterbacks, especially when they have this as a part of their arsenal. We saw it with Josh Allen last week. We've seen it with Lamar Jackson. They're going to be far more likely and far more willing to go and run the football. So I'm going to take 66.5 rushing yards for Lamar. I think he's going to be in the 80-90 range. I feel great about this number. He could go and get you 50 or 60 by the time you even hit the first half. Big day for the soon-to-be 2-time MVP on the ground. So I'm keeping it pretty simple and pretty reasonable when it comes to the maybe second-best quarterback in this game. But the quarterback's got a lot more to prove in this particular matchup. I think he balls out. All right, Raheem, prop market. What do we like?
We're going to go with Harrison Butker, over 6.5 kicking points. I played this for you guys 2 weeks in a row. You know what they say? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're not going to fix it. Butker has hit this number in 14 out of 19 games this season. That's 74%. And he's averaging almost 9 kicking points per game this year. This is a guy who is lights out. He's made 95% of his field goals and 100% of his point after. So you look at this Chiefs team, they've really had to settle for field goals more often than not. I mean, they're just 19th in red zone touchdown rate. You look at the other side of the ball, the Baltimore Ravens, they're second in defensive red zone touchdown rate allowed, about 40%. So I think the Chiefs are going to have plenty of opportunities to kick some field goals, to score some touchdowns. We've hit this twice in a row. We're not going to fix it. I look at it like this. You get 2 field goals, you get 1 point after, and you're there. So let's roll with this again.
And you always like the idea that you're going with reliability, and you're getting major reliability with both of these kickers. You know, normally you look at Tucker and you look at Butker and say, wow, whoever they're playing, they have a major leg up on. I'd say both of these guys, if we're coming down to a late, last-minute field goal attempt, I trust both of them. I think they're 2 of the premier kickers in the league. And if we're talking about a lot of scoring chances, I'm right there with you, Raheem. I would roll with Butker for the 3rd straight week. All right, House, prop, what do we got?
Yeah, I like the Butker one. I just want to chime in there. That's part of the reason why I endorse Dreams over in this football game, because I think both teams, they get across half field. There's going to be points. But I am rolling with a guy that has become a not-so-secret weapon for the Baltimore Ravens, and that's Justice Hill. I'm looking at his receiving yards prop. I'm looking at over 14.5. And, you know, as these weeks have gone on, since Keaton Mitchell got hurt, Justice Hill has begun to touches both in the rush game and in the receiving game. Now, look, we recognize the excellence of this Kansas City Chiefs pass defense, but one place where the Kansas City pass defense is susceptible is passes to the run back position. They're 26th in opponents' pass rating in throws to running backs and 24th in completion percentage. The Chiefs defense allows 80% on those completions. Running backs against the Chiefs, the last 4 games have 26 catches and 6 or more catches against this Chiefs defense in 6 of the last 7 games. Kansas City with the Willie Gay injury, the middle of the field. That's another area of exposure for this kind of play. And we like Lamar leaning into a horizontal kind of pass game, screens like what we saw in the second half against the Texans. Over his last 4 games, Mr. Hill has caught at least 2 passes in each of them. He's averaged 5 targets per game, and he's broken a 19 plus yard gain through the air 3 separate times. Justice Hill over 14.5 in receiving yards.
House rolling with a little justice. I like it. Okay, Sal, for your player prop, you're not looking at an over. You're looking at an under. Let's hear it.
Yeah, listen, I think I'm going to ruin it for everyone because I love all your picks. I love Hill over 14.5. Raheem has to go back to back with Butker. When a couple of weeks ago when he went Butker over points, he had hit that before we were even dishing out the slippery beef from the Chinese food carton, takeout carton. So, and JJ, not only do I like yours, Lamar over 66.5, you can get plus 410 for Lamar to have the most rushing yards. And if you're sly about it and he has a big, opening game, 110, 120, which he's done before, you can kind of hedge in the second game. But I guess I have to pick something myself. And this is no disrespect for Isaiah Pacheco. I just don't think he's going to get the workload here. Under 14.5 carries. Don't take this personally, Isaiah. In fact, none of you guys should tell him I'm taking this, but I'm betting the under. And by the way, this is a bad bet, probably just because it's coming from me, but also trend-wise. He's hit the over 14.5 in 7 of the last 8, but I'm going strictly by how I've mapped out this game. Baltimore is going to have the ball a lot. Kansas City is going to have to play catch-up. If you like Pacheco over receiving yards or over receptions, I think that's a better way to go. But I think he's stuck on 9, 10, or 11 carries. Go under 14.5 for Pacheco carries.
Wow, that is very contrarian from you. And I guess that's the theme of your particular week in Championship Sunday. Let's go as contrarian as possible, and maybe that will turn around the juju and the mojo. Sal, hey, whatever works as long as the Ravens go and cover 4.5. I'm going to be A-okay. All right, guys, let's get to the board that is up on FanDuel when it comes to the most yardage thrown by, we got passing touchdowns. So I want to make sure I get this right. Yardage. What are we talking about? Passing touchdowns here in the playoffs. And as you can see, there are guys on this list who are eliminated. The favorite right now is Baker Mayfield, who cannot play another playoff game for the Buccaneers. He's at plus 200. He has 6 passing touchdowns. Then you have Mahomes, and if you think the Chiefs are going to win, he's probably a good bet. He's at plus 250. Purdy at 350. Goff at plus 400. Lamar Jackson at plus 600. Raheem, you see that board right there. I almost think you got to try to identify what quarterback you like maybe to go and win the Super Bowl and keep putting up passing touchdowns. So, who catches your eye?
This one's tough for me. I don't want to spoil my pick for later, but I'm going to go with Jared Goff. He's at 3 touchdowns right now. I think he may be playing from behind. He may be playing from in front, but I just think this number is a little bit off for where he's positioned right now. So let's go with Jared Goff plus 400.
Fair enough. House, any value with the guy who's been eliminated from the postseason? Because right now he is the favorite. You got to catch him, but he can't do anything else. So is plus 200 on Mayfield a bad bet?
I don't think it's a bad bet. I think it's fair. If you have a game script concocted, especially for that Detroit-San Francisco game, where Purdy doesn't get to 3 passing touchdowns, then Baker might be sitting pretty because, my handicap doesn't have Goff going forward from here. So Goff would have to get to 3 just to push. And it's Purdy doesn't have enough to get there. I don't think, if you believe that the way that San Francisco is going to win this game is to strangle the clock. The Ravens don't need to throw the football. So I don't think that Lamar's going to get there, even though I think that they advance. They can score a whole variety of different ways. Don't require Lamar's arm to be involved. So Baker, not that crazy to me, JJ.
And Sal,
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Is there dead heat rules involved in this prop? Okay.
I think there is. I did way too much research on this stupid prop once it came up in our outline. I spent like 20 minutes and I still don't have an answer, Raheem, but I think that's the way to look at it. Yeah, Baker, you're probably going to be okay to split with somebody else. If you take Baker, you might split this 2 or 3 ways, but plus 200, it's not juicy. You're not getting a lot payback there, but you know, Mahomes with 3 should fall short. Purdy could have a few. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Like Raheem, I don't want to ruin that. But plus 350, I don't think is worth it if he's down 5. I don't like Goff's prospects, like Hal said, moving forward. I think it's Mayfield or Lamar. But I think Lamar will do it with his legs. But there's a reason he's plus 600 with 2 touchdowns, 4 behind. So all this said, Baker, boring pick. But I think you'll at worst split at plus 200.
Fair enough. All right, guys, time for a little Wise Guys. Please advise as we get ourselves a viewer email, getting you ready for Championship Sunday. What's good, Wise Guys? I'm sure you've heard this conspiracy about the Super Bowl team colors being hidden in the logo. So does that mean we're destined for Ravens Niners minus 115 on FanDuel, or is this all a coincidence? So I think we're pushing it a little bit. I mean, the Eagle Chief, look at those are dolphin teal colors, but hey, you want to roll with this being the Super Bowl? More power to you. I'm all good for a conspiracy theory when we get one.
I did a whole thing on this on Cousin Sal's winning weekend. Hey, if you really want to put this to the test, make it blue and silver, make it the Cowboys colors, and see what happens next year. No, this is nonsense. Of course, it's a coincidence. And you're right. I don't even think the colors match up in a lot of the cases.
Well, and then I'm looking at the Bengals Super Bowl from a couple of years ago. Right. Are you guys kidding me? That Bengal, that's not orange. I know orange when I see it. I went to Syracuse. I'm rocking a little orange right now as we speak. That logo looks a little red as far as I'm concerned. So listen, you want to buy into the conspiracy theory, more power to you. Listen, we got a lot more coming up in this loaded Championship Sunday edition of Ringer Wise Guys. We got picks, player props for the Niners and the Lions in the NFC title game. And one of the 4 of us might be picking Detroit outright. Who would that be? All that more. It's coming up right here on FanDuel TV. What's the perfect way to spend your bye week? It's right here on FanDuel TV with this outstanding lineup of programming. Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Joe House, Raheem Palmer, John Jastremski. East Coast bias will have everything you need to know about the early look at the Super Bowl matchup, which hopefully will feature the Baltimore Ravens, just throwing that out there. And we'll also try to figure out what my New York Knickerbockers are going to do if Julius Randle is going to miss an extended period of time. Joe House and I need to cash our over at 43 or 44 and a half wins. So get well soon, Julius. That's coming up Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern, East Coast biased. And you have Cousin Sal, full cast of characters, loaded show. That's coming up Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, Cousin Sal's winning weekend. And then our final Ringer Wise Guys of this 2023 NFL season. That's coming up 11 a.m. Eastern in a couple of Sundays on Super Sunday right here on FanDuel TV.
Wait a minute. That we're done with this? We're not going to wake up early to preview Creighton Marquette? I don't understand.
Listen, I'm more than happy to send you a video previewing my Saturday slate of college basketball. The Sunday slates aren't as good, Sal. So, I'm sleeping in. You've been getting up at 6 a.m. You want to keep getting up at 6 a.m. to do imaginary shows. More power to you.
You're right. I should shut up. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, guys, let's wisen up. It's now time for our picks for the NFC Championship game. All right, Sal, I'm starting with you. I don't know why I'm starting with you, but I am starting with you nonetheless. Lions, Niners, this line has moved up to 7 and a hook. Thoughts?
Well, I'm a cautionary tale. That's why you start with me, right? Everybody's ready to fade. But I am not dealing with the 7.5. I'm taking the coward's way out a little bit, and I'm going 49ers over team points, JJ. 30.5 is minus 112 I'm seeing there. I love this bet. San Francisco scored 24 last week versus Green Bay, and they were terrible. They were absolutely terrible, the 49ers. They scored 7 in the first half. I think they bust out this week because Deebo Samuel's back, and it's very simple. It's a TJ Watt stat for the Steelers. Deebo's there. They're 12-1 with him. When he's not there, they're 1-4 without him. And the Lions, look at their defensively, even in winning playoff efforts, have allowed a ton of yardage. 23 and 24 points to the Rams and Bucks. 725 yards to Baker and Stafford over the last 2 weeks. Brock Purdy is going to have a monster game. I know I was all over him last week because he really didn't get it done in the rain, although he did get it done with that last drive. We're going to see a consistent flow of offense from the 49ers. Let's not forget, these Lions, they had some big-time letdown games. Ravens beat them by 32. The Bears beat them by 15. Even at home, they got beat up on Thanksgiving by the Packers. This is the advantage to taking an over team total is you don't have to worry about a backdoor cover, which I think is in play in this game, but not if I'm taking the 49ers team total over 30.5. Go get that, JJ.
All right, Sal rolling with a team total for his wisest wager with the NFC title game. House, rumor has it you are also rolling with the total. Let's hear some logic, sir.
Yeah, I'm on the San Francisco money line, and I'm parlaying that with the under in this game, the under of the entire total to the game of 51.5 points. I like San Francisco to win this game. I'm not comfortable laying a touchdown. I'm hitting the pause a little bit. I think we'll hear some reasons how and why it is that Detroit could pull this one off, but their defense, number one against the run and number one in quarterback pressure rate, and their ability to potentially control the trenches wants me to proceed cautiously with the line. And San Francisco, 3-6 against the spread at home, 4th worst. Detroit 7-2 against the spread on the road. Since week 8, San Francisco has not covered at home. They're 0-6. So I'm on the money line for the Niners. But really this comes down to, in terms of the total, the fact that Detroit's offense slows down in the outdoors. They average less than 18 points per game in open air stadiums compared to nearly 31 points per game indoors. And, this is simply, it doesn't have anything to do with the temperature. It's the surface, the difference of playing on grass versus artificial turf. Their yards per play go down. Their points per play go down. Jared Goff, his production outdoors is worse. His completion percentage goes down. And, it's Goff up against one of the best pass defenses in the league, throwing into the strength of that defense in the middle of the field where he really likes to live. in terms of game script, the 49ers might get up by quite a bit and then turn this game into a slowdown slog protecting the lead. We've seen Kyle Shanahan turtle. So the 51.5 feels like too much to me. So that's why I'm pushing the under alongside the San Francisco money line. That gets you the plus odds on San Francisco winning this game. And that's the script that makes sense to me.
Boys, I teased that one of us likes Detroit outright in this game. It's not me. Raheem Palmer, it's you. Why?
Okay, I like the Detroit Lions money line plus 290. When I look at this matchup, one thing that's abundantly clear to me is that this 49ers team, they either win with margin or they lose outright. Now, you look at pretty much every game they won this season, it's been by 7, 10, 13, 14, 15 points or more, except for last week's game against the Packers. And we all know the Packers should have won that game, but they made some key mistakes and kind of just pissed on themselves down the stretch. I don't think the Lions will do that. So I don't trust Brock Purdy to win with margin in this spot. Now, Janet Jackson had a record 1986 Control album. What have you done for me lately? Well, if you look at what the 49ers have done for you lately, they've played one real actual competitive game since December 25th when they lost 33-19 to the Ravens. Since then, they played the Commanders. That game was 13-10 at halftime. After that, they benched their starters against the Rams, and then they almost lost to the Packers. So that's a month worth of games that you have that the 49ers really haven't showed you much. Now, I know the first half of the season, if you look at the full season metrics, it says 49ers are the much better team and should win this with margin, but I'm just not buying it. You look at the 49ers, they are 26 in rushing EPA per play, 24th in rushing success rate on defense. So the Lions should be able to run the ball with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and actually control this game. And if they aren't playing from behind, they are extremely live in this game. And you look at 5 out of the last 6 matchups, the 49ers opposing team has actually gone over 9.5 in the first half. And this was a play that I actually liked to add on to it, but FanDuel went to 10.5. But so the market is basically telling you the Lions are going to be able to score in this first half. And I think if they score in this first half and they get out to a good start the same way the Packers did, they're going to be in this game. And that's really what it comes down to, because if you can stay in this game against Kyle Shanahan, what does he do? This guy's very conservative. You saw it last week against the Packers with the end of the half sequence where he just didn't go for it and they end up kicking a field goal. So this is a guy who's going to kick field goals in spots where you should probably go for it. But what is Dan Campbell? He has big balls. Dan Campbell has big balls and he's going to go for it. So I think this creates a scenario where I don't think the points are going to matter. The points won't matter in this game at all. So I'm not taking a 7.5 because we know the 49ers win with margin. We know that Dan Campbell is going to go for it in key spots. So this is a situation where you could put yourself in a spot where Dan Campbell's going to go for it. He might go. It might be fourth quarter. Dan Campbell might go for 2 with the game on the line. Like he might go for it on his own 30. So I just like his aggressiveness. I think he makes positive expected value decisions. I think Kyle Shanahan is scared. And if the game is close, I trust Kyle Shanahan to coach his way to win this game over Kyle Shanahan. So I just think this is a great spot to take the Lions when you add on to the fact that Brock Purdy, this guy has thrown more interceptions that haven't been caught than anybody. And for whatever reason, it just feels like the Lions have a lot of luck going their way. They won 2 playoff games in which they were outgained. Like, you just don't see that type of thing. And the big reason why is because they're performing very well in the red zone. They're 6 or 7 in the red zone, and they're 4 or 5 in goal-to-goal situations. So this team is getting it done where it matters. And if you look at the opposing teams that they play, they've really struggled in the red zone. So I'm taking the Detroit Lions plus 290. If you disagree with me, I think you could go the other way, play some alternate spreads on the 49ers. But I think the Lions are going to the Super Bowl. And I think you're going to see Eddie Murphy, who played Axel Foley in Beverly Hills Cop, with that Detroit Lions varsity jacket on at the Super Bowl.
I love the bravery. I respect it, Raheem Palmer. But I think for the San Francisco 49ers, to use a little term out of the Janet Jackson playbook, they in the Super Bowl are going to be together again, because I'm going the other way on this one. I like the Niners laying the 7 and the hook for all of the reasons that you mentioned, as far as Detroit being outgained the last 2 games in the postseason. And you throw in the fact that the Niners, to me, had their scare. The Niners should have, not could have, they should have lost last week to the Green Bay Packers. Carlson misses the field goal. Jordan Love plays hideously in the fourth quarter, and the Niners survived that game. I just think they're going to be much better. I think Detroit's defense, especially from a pass defense perspective, it flat out stinks. I think Brock Purdy is going to have a get-right game. I think he is going to play much better. I also think you look at the fact that the Lions like to attack the middle of the field. You're going to see the San Francisco 49er defense do a really good job of taking that away. I know we talk about Laporta. I know we talk about Gibbs. There's a guy on the other side by the name of Fred Warner. I think he's going to have a say in this one. And I think you're right. If this game gets tight and if this game is close, you do worry about the Niners, even though they won a close game last week. I'm going the other way, though. I think this is going to end up being a margin victory for them. High-scoring game, a lot of points. Give me 35-24. It's going to get nutty. It's going to be fun. But the San Francisco 49ers are going to be back in the Super Bowl. I know you like that, Raheem. Together again, right?
Speaking of together again, a lot of people are going to talk about Jared Goff and how he's playing outdoors. Well, he played college football at Cal, which is 20 minutes away from San Francisco. So I think this is a homecoming game for him, and he will be together again, like you just said.
By the way, this is, I know you just took us on an escapade just to add to all the Janet Jackson stuff, but this is the most overrated thing where a player looks at the schedule and says, hey, you know what? I'm going to San Francisco. Let me pull out a map. Let me pull out Apple Maps. Oh my God, I went to college right by here. I should have a big game. Aren't the stakes high enough that Jared Goff shouldn't have to check MapQuest to see where he went to college to determine if this is a big game or not? And if so, why is it so? Joe House pointed out, he was getting at it. Jared Goff, 2.5 touchdown passes at home, 1 touchdown on the road passing. So, all right, maybe he lives somewhere else, but it doesn't necessarily serve him right.
Fair enough, Sal. All I know is I hope we don't have any Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunctions on the Super Bowl Sunday edition of Ringer Wise Guys. Danny Kelly, fantasy football extraordinaire, guest pick. What do you got for us, buddy?
What's up, guys? So for the bet that I have in mind this week, it is a 3-leg same-game parlay for the 49ers-Lions game, and I am specifically eyeballing a Brock Purdy bounce-back game. I know he wasn't very good last week. I know that he struggled in the rain, but I really think he's going to bounce back hard. I think the 49ers offense is going to return back into the juggernaut that we've seen this year. And I think the Lions defense is not very good. They've given up a ton of yards and a ton of touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks over the last 5 games. So here's what I'm looking at. Brock Purdy over on touchdowns. And I want to pair that with Christian McCaffrey, sprinkle that in, his over on receiving yards, along with the 49ers money line. So again, Brock Purdy over touchdowns, San Francisco money line, and the Christian McCaffrey over on receiving. I just think the 49ers offense is going to come back alive. This might be a shootout type of game. We're going to see a lot of yards, a lot of points. So I'm liking that one a lot.
Kelly, I'd give that an endorsement. And now that we transition to player props, I'm going to piggyback off that. I think Brock Purdy is going to have a field day with this Lions secondary. And I know you're going to look at his passing yards for this game, and some people are going to be like shell-shocked by seeing a total as high as it is. I think the odds makers are setting this total just knowing full well how vulnerable and flat out how pathetic the Detroit Lions have been from a secondary perspective, and opposing quarterbacks have had their way. I think Brock Purdy, who struggled mightily with the wet football a week ago against the Green Bay Packers, going to get a better day to throw it. I like Purdy over passing yards. It's in the 275 range. I know. That means Brock Purdy's got to throw for 276. I think he gets it done. Big day for the Niner quarterback. Raheem, player prop. Take it away.
I like Jahmyr Gibbs over 22.5 receiving yards. I can see Jared Goff really checking down a lot. And when you look at the San Francisco 49ers defense, they've allowed the 5th most targets and the 6th most receptions to running backs this year. You look at some of the running backs they've played. they've gone over their total more often than not. Brian Robinson, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Kenneth Gainwell, Rashad White, Joe Mixon. All of these guys have gone over their total. I mean, and you look at guys like Jalen Warren and Tony Pollard and Rashad White. They've gotten a ton of targets, and they've been targeted over 4 times. So you look at Gibbs, when he's targeted over 4 times, he's cleared 22.5 yards easily. I think he's done that at 7 of 11 games. So you got to go with Jahmyr Gibbs over 22.5 receiving yards.
I like it, Raheem. Jahmyr Gibbs been an absolute beast these last few weeks. Got no problem getting involved with his market. Mr. House, I like where you're going from the prop standpoint. I may have already bet this once I saw a copy of our rundown. Please share with the viewing audience what that prop may be that I just wagered on.
Yeah, you're going to have to lay a little juice on this, and it's the idea of Jared Goff to throw an interception on FanDuel right now, minus 134 for yes. And there's a handful of things going on here. It starts with kind of a bummer because I really wanted Detroit to come into this game against San Francisco with perfect health, and then let this matchup fall where it may. But that's not the case. The Lions' offensive line is compromised. Their left guard, Jonah Jackson, is out, and their center, Frank Ragnow, playing at less than 100%. So the ability of a healthy San Francisco front to put pressure on Goff, and Goff's numbers, his splits between a clean pocket and under pressure are dramatic, and he's immobile as we know. But really, this boils down to, in the passing game, and you guys alluded to it already, my wise men, he likes to throw the ball in the middle of the field. In fact, he throws the ball in the middle of the field more than any other quarterback in the NFL. 53% target rate to the middle of the field, number 1 of 48 quarterbacks. On those throws, the San Francisco defense, number 1 in interception rate, number 1 in preventing touchdowns, number 3 in success rate, number 2 in EPA per attempt. They have a ratio of 6 touchdowns to 17 interceptions in the middle of the field. When Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions lose, Jared Goff throws interceptions. He's thrown at least 1 pick in 4 out of 5 losses. He's thrown multiple interceptions in his last 2 losses over the last 2 years. They've lost 13 games, and 9 of the 13, he's thrown at least 1 interception. And I just, think that this is a game script where Detroit is going to be behind. There'll be lots of opportunities for Goff to be trying to throw the football. I like 1 pick at minus 134.
I got no problem laying that juice. Jared Goff been due to go and throw himself an interception. I think it will happen come Sunday. Okay, Sal. Once again, you were riding with me in a different kind of way with the 49er quarterback. How are you attacking one Brock Purdy?
I'm with you. I'm on the Brock Purdy bonanza here with you. And by the way, I did some research. I found out Brock Purdy, Bay Area guy. All his home games were in the Bay Area. So he really, look it up if you don't believe me. He's gonna bring his A game because of that. No, listen, I have Purdy 3 or more passing touchdowns at plus 190. Now, it's been a while since he's put up 3, but he did it 5 times this year. And I think Shanahan, not only are they going to win this game, but they have to make a statement here, right? Because it was so weird with him last week with the rain, and he takes a glove off and he puts it on, he puts 2 gloves on. You don't know what's, and everybody immediately lost their confidence in Brock Purdy. Even Shanahan did. They were on the other side of the field with less than a minute left in the half, and they were playing for a field goal that never ended up happening. So I think they have to go the other way. Shanahan has to devise a plan that makes him look like a superstar again. Needs that going into the Super Bowl to go against either the MVP Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes. Remember, it was Purdy's MVP for the taking until it was taken from him by Lamar Jackson. 2 to Debo, 1 to Kittle. That's 3. Gets me plus 194, JJ.
I like the sound of that. And one guy we have not mentioned from a player prop perspective, I want to throw it out there for the Ringer Wise Guys audience. George Kittle, who scored a touchdown last week against the Green Bay Packers. And if you're wondering if Debo Samuel maybe is going to be a little bit of a decoy, I like the idea of getting in on George Kittle props over receptions, over receiving yards, and I might even dabble with George Kittle scoring the first touchdown of the game. All right, boys, it's now time for our Ringer Wise Guys family meal. We're all bringing something different to the table. Sal, let's go back-to-back, belly to belly. You're starting off the meal. What do we got?
Yeah, this should be the Rice-A-Roni one, right? Because I'm going Rashee Rice, most receiving yards, plus 800. Now, I don't think the Chiefs are going to win, but I think they're going to have to play catch-up. And, JJ, I hate to bring it, cover your ears here. You know he went for 127 against your Dolphins a couple of weeks ago. Or 130, by the way, against the Dolphins. 127 against the Bengals a week before that. I'm sticking with that narrative that KC is going to have to throw to cut into the lead, early Ravens lead. 8-1 just seems too high for this player prop. Over the 2 games, Rashee Rice has the most receiving yards.
Wow, and yes, Rice has been a monster for Patrick Mahomes over the last few weeks. High total, lofty total, taking a little bit of a roll of the dice for the family meal though, Sal, so I like it. Okay, House, I know you're mixing and matching. You might be mixing and matching with a couple of wise wagers that we've thrown out there. What do we have, sir?
Yeah, well, we've got a parlay here. It's a Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat. And yes, I am taking some of Cousin Sal's Rashee Rice, putting that into this mix here in terms of a scoring opportunity. I have San Francisco on an adjusted line. I've already explained why I don't like laying a touchdown with the Niners. We're going to ramp down their line, San Francisco down to -6.5. And then we're taking the over, just like Dream did, and he made the case for the Kansas City-Baltimore game. I like Rashee Rice as a potential weapon in that. And really, let's just talk about the over, because the San Francisco part of this we've kind of covered already. The Ravens score points at home. Those games average 49 points or more. And Lamar, the last 5 games, 44 points, 75, 68, 54, 64. Kansas City Chiefs have scored at least 23 points. At least 23 points in every one of the 5 AFC Conference Championship games that they've been in. The over in the Chiefs and the Ravens alongside San Francisco -6.5. That's your Rice-A-Roni parlay.
I like the sound of that. Raheem's wisest wager, one of my wisest wagers. Sounds like a winner. Okay, Dream, what are you bringing to the table?
We're going to go all teams to score 1 field goal and 1 touchdown plus 140. We already broke down why we like the over in Chiefs Ravens. We already broke down how drives could stall out. We broke down how both teams have great field goal kickers. And then you guys already broke down why you guys like the over in 49ers versus Lions. So you like the over in both games, and both teams are going, all 4 of these teams are going to be able to score. I think this is a good bet.
I do too, and I like the sound of that at plus 140. Okay, guys, I'm bringing some Maryland brew crabs, and I'm bringing a little brisket to the table, a little mix and match to wrap up our family meal with an SGP. Baltimore, I told you it's my game of the year. I'm taking them to win the game. Odell Beckham Jr., I know he's been quiet, but we're talking about a guy who was instrumental in the Rams Super Bowl run a couple of years ago. I think he might be the forgotten guy maybe for Steve Spagnuolo and company. I'm going to say he goes over 21.5 receiving yards. He could hit that on 1 reception. And then when in doubt, Patrick Mahomes is going to go with the weapon he trusts the most. That's Travis Kelce. I'll say he gets to 5+ receptions. That SGP pays you a nice $250. That to me is a beautiful way to wrap up a family meal. Okay, guys, Craig Horlback, another member of the fantasy football crew. He wanted to join the party here on Ring of Wise Guys. He's got a guest pick.
What's up, Wise Guys? This is Craig Horlbeck from the Ringer Fantasy Football Show. I've made 1 bet on your show, and I pushed, I believe, so I'm going to try to get the win this time. What I love, a teaser. I'm teasing the Niners down to -1, and I'm teasing the total in the Ravens-Chiefs game to 51, and I'm taking the under. The Chiefs have played 19 games this season. Not a single game has gone over 51 points. It might be a little rainy there, a little sprinkling. Joe Thuney's not playing. I think this game's going to be low scoring, a lot of running the ball, 2 fantastic defenses. So Niners -1, Chiefs Ravens total under 51.
Thank you, Craig. We got something from the Podfather who, you know, I guess because of the fact that his dog did not have a bathroom accident, decided he's not going to send us a guest pick as he's getting ready for all these rewatchables. But what he is going to do is bother us and send us his 4-team insane tease that we do each and every week. Thank you for the graphic. Kansas City, Baltimore over 31. Ravens, is that plus 8.5 for the game? Yeah, that's plus 8.5 for the game. A ridiculous over at 39 for Detroit and San Francisco, and then plus 6 for the Niners. House, what is that tease juiced up to? He's got to be laying like 3-1 or 350-1 with that insanity, right?
I don't know that when you get this exotic, you're outside, you're in a universe that I can't, fathom it. It's like, quantum physics as far as I'm concerned, but I do like this.
I mean, it's hard to mock it. Listen,
Yeah.
Let's give credit where credit is due. I think it will be a winner. I think it will cash. Raheem, what is he laying on that? I got to know, at least 4-1.
Nah.
You think
it's
less
probably,
than that? I mean, those totals are crazy.
I think it's close. I think it's close to even money.
Yeah, it's like 120, 125 or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, it's hard to argue with it, but it's like, but by the way, Bill, good luck to you trying this in the NBA. I mean, he's going to miss football more than anyone. He's not going to be able to make these 4-teamers starting next week or in 2 weeks. So, but they win. So I don't even know what to say anymore.
Hey, listen, they have won, so we'll give credit where credit is due. I can't believe he's not laying more juice on that. But again, that's a story for a different day. Guys, quickly, wise guys, please advise. There is a possibility you are looking at the tease of the year in the NFL. That's right. Tease of the year in the NFL. Chiefs plus 10.5, Niners minus 1.5. Who's going to go and kill that? Sal, I think we know our answer. Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, I have Ravens having a double-digit win, so that's the end of the Chiefs. But it's just insane that the books would let this get to 10.5 on a teaser, considering the week they had last week. They got slammed on all teasers. So that's why I can't believe it went to 4.5 for this. But good luck if you have the double-digit teaser with the Chiefs.
And Raheem, I think we know who is killing this tease, in your opinion. That would be the Niners.
It's definitely the Niners, but it's both of them.
Both of them. Listen,
that's my hot take.
Sometimes when it's a little too good to be true, just remember, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it normally is. We are going to be back in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, for our Ringer Wise Guys finale. We will be in Las Vegas. We are fired up to be in the desert to get you ready for the Super Bowl matchup, whatever it might be. For Cousin Sal, Joe House, Raheem Palmer, John Jastremski signing off. We will see you in 2 Sundays, Super Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Follow us on our digital platforms, all the good stuff. We got Brian Barrett coming up. We got more props. We got more insanity. Check that out, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you get all your digital, social, extraordinary media. We're out. Wise Guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Be good, everybody. Wise Guys, John Jastremski, Cousin Sal, Joe House, Raheem Palmer, getting you ready for Championship Sunday. We have some unison with the Chief Raven game. We have some dissent when it comes to the Lions and the Niners. I'm going to start with you on this, House, and we'll go around the room, and then we'll have fun for the next half hour and where we're going to go and what we're going to do. You'll have to wait and see. Out of these 2 games, what game do you feel better about? Lions, Niners, Chiefs, Ravens.
Chiefs, Ravens. I really do think that this is the year. I can't remember whether it was you, JJ. It was you. This is your game of the year. I agree that this is the year of the Ravens. If you look at their performance against teams that were 500 or better this season, it's extraordinary. And they beat the pants off of just about everybody they came up against. The only stumble was the first portion of the season, the first 6 games or so, and that really was the acclimation period to Todd Monken, the new offensive coordinator. He and Lamar getting on the same page. You look from week 7 on, this Ravens offense got cooking. It was unstoppable and remained that way. And, you know, I just think that they're set up. They got health on both sides of the ball. They're ready for the run.
Raheem, you're going with the Lions outright. Are you more confident in that game, or we're going to have at 3:00?
Like, this one's tough just because I can never pick against Patrick Mahomes at this point in time. And I just think the Lions in the 49ers game, it has a wide range of outcomes. I think you could see the Lions outright, or I think you could see the 49ers by 19. So it's not a huge confidence thing on that side. I just think the Lions have a better chance of winning this game than people were saying. Now, when it comes to the Ravens versus the Chiefs, the Ravens should win this game, but I can't pick against Patrick Mahomes. I'm not even going to try. And look, if you got the Ravens -3, I think you have a good bet. But here at 4.5 and where we are now, I'm a little worried that the Ravens pick is kind of becoming trendy. So I'm staying out of this one. I don't have much of a opinion at all. So God bless you.
Fair enough. It's interesting though, Raheem. You look at the Lion-Niner game. For those out there who are looking at 7.5 points with Detroit and saying, wow, I'm grabbing 7 in the hook. I got a team that can maybe backdoor this. Got a team that can put up a whole lot of offense. You don't see value with Detroit getting the points. Your kind of handicap on the game is, hey, if it's close, Detroit wins, don't bother.
That's how I feel. Like I really we've seen it all year long with this 49ers team. They are ultimate front runners. And I hate to put them in that category, but they've either, like last week, they really should have lost that game. And I felt like it said more about the Packers that they lost that game than the 49ers. And we've seen all year long, they've either won by margin or they've lost outright. So I think this is a tight game. We don't know. We've never seen Purdy in a tight playoff game. That's something that we've literally never seen. Jared Goff has way more playoff experience. This guy has been to a Super Bowl. Like, what is Jared Goff's legacy if he goes to a second Super Bowl? Because this is a guy who got shipped out of LA for Matthew Stafford because it was believed that he couldn't lead a team to a Super Bowl. Well, he's knocking at the doorstep right now.
Fair enough. Sal, because you gave us a pick on the spread for Baltimore KC, didn't for Lions San Francisco, is that kind of your tell on these two games?
My tell is that I have a 21-1 ticket with the Chiefs and 49ers to make the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not patting myself on the back.
If you don't mind me asking, when did you grab that?
I did that in August of 1983.
Nice.
No, I did that in I did this past August. But I'm not gonna. First of all, it's probably gonna lose. Secondly, I do like 4 or 5 of those. I had the Bengals in there and some of them, so I mix and match and do a bunch of those. But that said, I think the Niners are my lock out of 2. Even though I didn't give you the -7.5. I think the road home splits between Detroit, what they do in their own building, and then when they go on the road is a different story. And I think the 49ers got their scare, and they're going to put together a big offensive performance today.
All right, guys, we got a lot more coming up on the bonus time edition of Ring of Wise Guys. We'll have Brian Baer from Off the Pike, who's got some picks for us, and he'll give us some insight on what's going on with his buddy Bill Belichick. Is he going to be joining Sal and Simmons on Guest the Lines every Sunday night? Maybe. Never know. Sheil and Solak, they've been with us every step of the way. They got some insight for us. Let's hear the boys.
All right, let's get to it. Locks of the week. We will each pick each game, and then we got one more pick at the end. That is a wild card. Well, why don't we just start? Lions, Niners. I already know your pick. I mean, you're picking the Lions outright. I'm also on the Lions +7. I was struggling with this. It's one of those where I start writing the thing in the column and I go, I'm taking the Niners. I think it's going to be a blowout. And then I get to the end and I go, man, this Lions team has been so competitive last 29 games. Solak, 22-7. This Lions team going back to last year, 3 losses by more than 7 points in their last 29 games.
This is a game where if it was a 16-game slate, I would not be betting it for the contest. I would not be taking it. Like, I think the Lions have a great shot to win. I like the Lions +7. I don't like to take games where the offensive potential is this high because one team shows up and now it's a uproarious blowout, right? Like the Niners could, like you come to the future, tell me Niners win this by 24. I'm not too shocked. You know, I'm surprised, but not, so it's like this is not one I would typically be taking, but why not? Like I believe in this Detroit team. I've been around them obviously, and I've watched them pretty closely now, and watching their past few games, watching how they've gone up against top competition. I like their ability to hang in this.
Niners fans, don't get mad at me, but let's keep an eye on the game management in this one. Dan Campbell versus Kyle Shanahan. A little edge for the Niners. Got a lot of edges in this game. That's not one of them. That edge is going to the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell.
Yep, you better beat him in 3 quarters. You don't want to need 4 to beat him.
Hey, last week they showed. They put that to bed. They can come back in the 4th quarter and win games. All right. This next game, I don't think I will be shocked if this game is a blowout one way or another. Legitimately shocked if this is more than a 7-point game. I think we're going to get a classic, a fun classic, and I have no idea what side Benjamin Solak is on. Ravens, let me check, double check, still 3.5. Yes.
Yep.
Raven. By the way, Ravens 3.5 minus 115 versus Chiefs plus 3.5 minus 105. Solak, what do you got?
I'm on the Ravens -3.5. I think they're the better team. I think they're at home, and I think they're well coached. I think they are equipped for a Super Bowl run. I think we've been seeing them delete postseason caliber competition all year, and they are well equipped. They're a very good tackling unit. They're great at rallying to the ball and stopping your yards after the catch. Like they are well equipped to handling the way the Chiefs need to precipitate the football, need to matriculate it down the field. I think the Ravens win it. You said you'd be shocked if this was a blowout. I also would be. But I would not be shocked if this is a game the Ravens control pole to pole, right? Where the Ravens get a lead and then maintain the lead. And it's just Mahomes trying to Herculean effort his way back into it and eventually falling up short.
All right, so like pull up the spreadsheet. What's our record when we both have the same sides? Because that's what we got here. I got the Ravens -3.5. I will say this, that Chiefs defense, I will not be shocked if we're like 4 or 5 possessions in and we're like Ravens are having some issues against this Chiefs defense. But last week, what we saw from the Ravens is that problem solving during the game. I think the Ravens are the better team. I think the Ravens are going to win, but no one's going to be shocked if Patrick Mahomes is stealing this game in the 4th quarter.
Lamar this season right now is 14-3 as a starter. We're going to look back and be like, all right, 2019 took the lead by storm. 2020, 2021, there was a recalibration. There was some injury. 22 and 23 was when Lamar Jackson, the career-defining, I'm going to dominate this league for the next decade, stretch came, and he's 2 games away from starting that off with a bang.
All right. Good stuff there from the boys. Let's welcome in a guy who's been with us multiple times throughout the year. He had a great SGP. He had to remind me of the fact that my team passed up Drew Brees for Dante Culpepper. Thanks for that, Brian Barrett. Welcome in. I hope you're doing well. You ready for Championship Sunday?
I am, and now you're dealing with another shoulder situation, JJ. What's going on with Julius Randle? I was watching that game yesterday. That was ugly, man. So this team that I was kind of not scared that they could beat the Celtics, but a little bit worried that, hey, they could give them a tough series. We'll see what happens with Randle. But I'm excited for this. And the main reason that I wish that the Patriots were in this is because of the fact that I got to watch the Chiefs and the Ravens, the 2 teams that I hate the most in the NFL, because the Chiefs are trying to be what the Patriots were, a dynasty. And the Ravens are a soft organization that told the Colts that the Patriots were deflating footballs because they got pantsed in a playoff game when the Patriots came up with all these weird formations. And Brady said after the game, study the rule book. So I wish both these teams could lose, but it doesn't work that way.
No, somebody has to win. I did not think that we would get a Deflategate reference on your contribution to the show. So thank you for that. If you had that in your bingo card, you made yourself a whole lot of money. Before we get to your picks here for these championship games, your old buddy Belichick, nobody wants him. Nobody wants him. It's amazing. I thought for sure he was going to get the Atlanta job. Washington seems to be in the direction where they're going to hire the Lions offensive coordinator. Bill wants to coach again. You know he wants that Shula record, but at least for 2024, Brian, we're going to be living in a world where Bill Belichick maybe is doing guest lines with Simmons and Sal, or maybe he's on a studio set somewhere because he's not going to be coaching.
Well, if he's on the Podfathers pod, that may be good news, right? Because think about what just happened with Doc Rivers, right? Could we see him do the same thing to say Mike McCarthy next season or Nick Sirianni, where I know it's different in the NFL, but midway through the season, they bring in Bill Belichick to coach the team. I'm honestly not surprised because it felt like the whole time Atlanta was his only destination. And then once we found out what transpired in that meeting, nobody in the whole organization wanted him besides Arthur Blank. And then you throw the Harbaugh thing into the equation. The Chargers, they made a really good hire. It made no sense to go with Bill over Harbaugh, and he never even interviewed with another job. The one thing that I would say is there is one aspect of this to say, hey, it could be a blessing in disguise for Bill, because what are they going to do in Atlanta with a quarterback? Like maybe they get in the Cousins sweepstakes, but you'd think Minnesota would try to bring him back. So maybe that's not a good job. Maybe that's just him trying to chase down Shula's record. Now, the other part of it is, okay, these other jobs could open up, maybe even the Bills next year, maybe the Eagles, maybe the Cowboys, but all those teams could have fired their coaches this year. And the Cowboys have a bad coach. McDermott had all this controversy going on this season. None of them fired their coach for Bill. So why would they hire Bill next year, especially considering the fact that, hey, Mike Vrabel may be available next offseason too. So one of the marquee jobs may go to him unless he wants to take, hypothetically, Seattle. Like that's really the only opening left for Vrabel, right? So it's crazy. And I think there's a real possibility that this is it for Bill, that he's not going to get another coaching job.
Yeah, I'm with you. Why would anyone hire Bill this or any year in the future? If it's 2009, I say, yeah, go ahead and hire him. But honestly, you Patriots fans, you get together and laugh about how you're trying to foist Bill Belichick, this 71-year-old who went 3-14 and wants control of every front office. And we're trying to foist him. Oh, he's perfect for the Atlanta. He's perfect. Why doesn't Dallas? Oh, McDermott lost in spectacular fashion. The Bills have to hire him. This is a joke already. Why would anyone want Belichick? Come on. Let's get real here.
Yeah, Sal, and I think the interesting component to that is it's just for us from an interest level, right? Because we got to see Brady play for a different team, and we got to watch 2 games every week for the amount of time that he was in Tampa Bay. And I'm with you, even if, say, hypothetically, Kraft will never take blame for Brady leaving whatsoever. He just won't. I mean, he pretends like he had no say in it when, hey, you're the owner and you sided with the coach. So in that aspect, I look at it like, if he decided in 2020, when Brady ended up signing with Tampa, that he said, hey, if you don't give him the Drew Brees deal, Bill, it's going to be you that's gone, he would have had a bunch of opportunities. I think Bill in 2020 would have had more job offers to coach than Brady had to play quarterback. But because now we've seen this 4-year period and the drafting had been an issue at the end of the Brady tenure, it's just not very appealing. And think about it from the Falcons aspect. They have a bunch of guys in place, whether or not you think they're good coaches. Bill is going to be in control of the organization. There's no way, like, he can say all he wants. When Bill Belichick takes over an organization, it becomes him, or his rather. So what tells you that it's a smart hire right now? It doesn't really make any sense. I mean, look at who these teams are hiring. And you would think, like, a couple of years ago, Raheem Morris, who I believe deserves another opportunity. I mean, he coached when he was young. He did a really good job in Los Angeles. But think about that sentence if you said it 4 years ago. Hey, a team decided to go with Raheem Morris over Bill Belichick. This is unfortunately the neighborhood he lives in. I do think one thing that I thought was unfair is the smear campaign coming from the Crafts. After they mutually parted ways, they said, which we know it's not true. They're giving all this stuff to Wickersham about, hey, after Brady won the Super Bowl, he told me Tom couldn't play anymore. All this stuff about what he did in the organization that basically, and they're acting this way too. Everybody else is still here, like in the front office. So they're acting like Bill was the only one that wasn't good at his job. So I thought that was unfair from the Crafts, like the smear campaign. Hey, you got rid of the coach. You got your own guy. I would have liked to see an actual coaching search, like maybe interview the Vrabel guy that won 3 Super Bowls for the team and made Bill look bad in a playoff game in 2019. But here we are, and we'll see. But I wonder what he's going to do. Like you guys said, the pod, CBS, I mean, they could use somebody else. I wonder. Bill was really good when he did that top 100 thing. Remember that? He won an Emmy for that a couple of years ago. Like, I don't think
when he actually wants to be engaging, he can be very engaging. And
yeah, you ask him about special teams.
Gets into it. He really does. But when he's a coach, he has no desire to talk to any member of the media or give them anything. So you'll get a totally different Belichick, Brian, than those post-game, pre-game Wednesday sit-downs with Tom Curran and whoever's on the Boston beat,
Yeah. I think that it would be interesting if he does something now that he's not getting a job, if he does something prior to the Super Bowl. I think that could be compelling. And I don't know what's going to go on like long term with some of these pregame shows. I mean, obviously this is the best pregame show, but maybe he gets on one of those, right? I mean, maybe he does something along those lines.
I mean,
He can't do guess the odds. I'm sorry, he can't do guess the lines. It'll kill the franchise because he'll obviously cheat. That's what he's best at, cheating. And he'll just be looking right at the FanDuel page as we're guessing the lines. So that's out.
Hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. According to Chandler Jones, he had nothing to do with Deflategate. That was all Tom Brady. So
there you go.
So I would love, changing gears a little bit, I would love to get your thoughts on some of the new coaches. I mean, you got Dave Canales. I mean, he did a tremendous job with Tampa Bay. You got Raheem Morris. You got Harbaugh coming into the Chargers. Which one of those guys do you think is going to make the most impact? Which one of those guys you think is going to make the least impact? What do you think about all of these new coaches?
I think for sure the number one guy is Harbaugh for a couple of reasons. The first one is think about who he's replacing. Brandon Staley, I sort of liked him when he first came up as somebody that's like into analytics and the numbers, but he just went over the top. Then he got too conservative. It just felt like he wasn't comfortable. And you bring in Harbaugh, we can say whatever we want about the guy. He wins everywhere, whether it's San Diego, whether it's Stanford, whether it's the 49ers. The guy went to what, 3 consecutive NFC championship games. And you think about it, he took over that team and they had Alex Smith at quarterback. Alex Smith's career looked like it was over at that particular point in time. The guy had taken a pay cut. Then he goes to a Super Bowl with Kaepernick, and now you get Justin Herbert. Now they have situations that are not great with their salary cap, but I think it's a great hire for them. With Canales, I don't know. I was never a big Bryce Young guy. I like my quarterbacks to be like at least like 6'2". I mean, I think that the Bryce Young pick was dumb. I don't understand trading up all that way for a small quarterback when you consider that Stroud was there and Anthony Richardson was there. And this is not hindsight. I just never understood that pick. And I know he did a great job with Baker, so maybe they get something going there. I just think that's a difficult job. You're the worst team at the NFL and you don't have a first round pick. So, and then I really think that the Ben Johnson, which it appears is going to happen, house that he's going to end up in Washington. I really would like that because I like the GM, Adam Peters. I wanted the Patriots to go after him, but they said, hey, let's stick with all the guys that have been screwing up drafts with Bill for the past decade or so. We'll stick with those guys. So I think that's a great match because you think about it, you have whether they decide to go with Drake May or Jaden Daniels. Well, now you have like Ben Johnson is an incredible offensive coordinator. I know there's challenges when you take on the coaching job as well, but now you have this guy being the signal caller for one of these two quarterbacks on the Patriots. In all likelihood, it's going to be Nick Caley, who doesn't have a ton of experience. Ben Johnson is like a really, really good offensive mind. So when I look at it, like that's the hire to me that I think is unbelievable. The Raheem Morris one, I just feel like the big challenge is the quarterback. Where do you find it?
Well, Barrett, you have a full menu of picks that we want to get to, but real quick, follow up on this Washington coach search. I think that Mike Vrabel, don't cross him off quite yet. You know the connection between Vrabel and Peters and how the far back they go, and the fact that there's been radio silence. Nobody's heard a peep about Vrabel to Washington. I think that's a very good sign. Now, I'd be thrilled with Ben Johnson. But look, let's go ahead right now and set the stakes. Your team, my team, right next to each other. Who ends up with a better record in 2024?
I'll say Washington just because.
Oh, you wimp.
No, I mean, I just don't know the Patriots are going to draft a quarterback number one, but are they going to sign T. Higgins? Are they going to sign one of these top tier receivers? Because you look at the weapons coming back next season, their best receiver on paper right now is a 6th-round pick, DeMario Douglas. I'm sorry, Juju was horrible for them last year, and Kendrick Bourne's coming back from an ACL. He's not under contract. Unfortunately, for some inexplicable reason, they re-signed Parker because he's loyal to Matt Patricia, who's now, of course, not with the organization. They decided, hey, Jacoby Myers, you're really good for us. Why don't you go play with a different team? So that's the main reason. And they have issues with the offensive line. So the new quarterback for the Patriots, whether it's May or Daniels, that job is going to be so difficult early on. That's why Caley better be good at this thing. Because if Caley's not a good offensive coordinator and all signs point to that, they're in major trouble. And it would just be like, oh, they replaced Bill. And what really changed within the org? Like, they're going to be so young in terms of Covington is the defensive coordinator. He's 34. Mayo's 37. Caley's going to be 41. They have no experience on that staff whatsoever. It's actually incredible to me that they said the biggest problem is Bill Belichick. And that's it. Nobody else is gone besides maybe his kids, if his kids decide not to stay. And Steve Belichick's good. Like, Steve Belichick is a good defensive play caller. And now he may not be in the mix either.
Crazy to be living in a world where the Patriots going to be in the position to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I'm not going to lie. After seeing them dominate, you've seen so much success, Brian, over the last 25 years. You do for 5 or 6 lousy years. You have your Celtics. You can enjoy your Celtics, and we'll see where that goes. Okay.
Not last night.
How about last night?
Oh, my. That was a beatdown. Yeah, I mean, the Clippers, that's a wagon, though.
Clippers are playing really well. We'll see if they can do it come playoff time, but they're playing really well at this point. They really are. Okay. My game of the year is Baltimore. I've said it. I'll say it again. Game of the year. You're going the other way. And not only are you going the other way, forget about the point spread. Brian, you don't even need the point spread for Championship Sunday. Accurate?
Yeah, so I like the Chiefs on the money line for plus 180. Everything tells me that this is stupid because the Ravens have been the best team of the NFL. They're top 6 in offensive EPA per play, defensive EPA per play. Lamar is the MVP. The team's loaded. But and this is why this pick it's not based on any numbers or statistics. It's just the fact that we've seen this. I saw this with the Patriots. And last week, I don't want to pick against Mahomes again because I thought finally Josh Allen and Sean McDermott, they got the game at home. They kept talking about they got the game at home. They didn't win. And then Mahomes and company find a way to do it. Like you come up with weird ways to win. I think about the Patriots. I mentioned that Ravens game a couple of years ago with the weird formations in 2014. And they catch all these breaks. The Patriots did, right? Where you had D Ford lining up off sides when Tom Brady threw an interception. You think about this Chiefs run over the past few years, like the 13 seconds game. That should have never happened. It just feels like they always find a way for this to play out. And if the Chiefs keep it close, I don't see Lamar Jackson beating Pat Mahomes in a close game. So I think it's more likely that the Ravens would blow the Chiefs out than keep this thing close. And I believe this is going to be a close game, and I believe the Chiefs can stay in it. And I'm going to take Pat Mahomes in this type of game. It does sort of have I don't know what's going to happen with Kelsey after the season because he comes off the field so often now. It's like he's always coming off the field, but it feels like there's a couple of big plays like we saw against Buffalo where he comes up big. I like the way that Rashee Rice is playing for them. I know the Tooney injury could be a big one for them. And I love Pacheco. So I feel like they'll find a way. It does sort of remind me of the 18 Patriots, where the 18 Patriots were not a great team. They lost to the Titans. They lost to the Detroit Lions with Matt Patricia. They lost to a Titans team that was horrible that season. They lost to the Dolphins. They do that a lot, but they were 11-5. And I say they weren't good. They won the Super Bowl. That was not a vintage Patriots team. They just found a way to get it done. And this is sort of what this Chiefs team reminds me of. It's just they're 1 win away from getting back to the Super Bowl. I'm not picking against Mahomes again.
Can you believe, Raheem, this line in some places is creeping a 5.5. We might be looking at the biggest underdog Patrick Mahomes has ever been in his career. Championship Sunday.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning. But I mean, when you look at all of the models, I think anybody who has a math model or just does some data analysis, they're going to have this line around 6 or 7. And the reason why they opened it at around 3 is because Patrick Mahomes, he's been that great. But when you look at the full season metric, when you look at what these teams have done all year, the Ravens are clearly a 6-point favorite. But like I said before, when I broke down why I like the total, I don't think this Chiefs team that we're seeing right now is what they were the entire year. And I think people aren't really pricing that in. So this game scares me. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm just going to hedge my Chiefs futures and let y'all enjoy the game.
All right, Brian, prop. You're getting involved with Isaiah Pacheco. What do you have for us?
Yeah, I have him over 61.5 rushing yards, and I know the Ravens have been a great defense. They're 22nd in rush success rate and 16th in rush EPA. And Pacheco's been over this number in 6 of his last 8 games. The only game he didn't go over this, or the 2 games, both against the same team, the Raiders. And if you look at the way to beat the Ravens, in the Colts loss that they had, Moss ran for 122 yards. You go back to the Browns game they lost, they ran for 178 yards. And that puts more pressure on Lamar when it's a close game and you shorten their amount of possessions. So that's my way that I think that the Chiefs could win this game, is running the football with Pacheco. And I just feel like the biggest thing in this game is putting pressure on Lamar Jackson, because until last week, and I know this has happened with quarterbacks in the past, we talked about it with Peyton Manning for years before that 2006 comeback against the Patriots when they were down, 21 points in that game, that I still want to see Lamar be in a situation where it's actually like last week was not a tough game for Baltimore. I want to see him in a pressurized situation and see if he can come through. And I think this is the best way to do it, run the football.
Okay, Brian, let's transition from Chiefs, Ravens to Niners, Lions. The line is at 7.5. Niners had their scare last week against Green Bay. Detroit, the feel-good story. Who do we like in the NFC title game?
I like the Niners to cover the number. And I know that Purdy was horrible last week in terms of that was one of the worst games he's played all season. But the thing I look at with this Lions team, their defense just hasn't been good. I mean, Stafford put up a 121 passer rating. Nakua had a buck 181. And you think about the Bucs who haven't been able to run all season long. Rashad White was running very efficiently in that game. Evans went for a buck 47 at a touchdown. This defense is getting absolutely gashed. And I know that this isn't the best time to defend Brock Purdy. I'm not the biggest Brock Purdy guy. I just think the rest of the roster is too stacked. And I believe they're going to be able to move the football up and down the field against that Lions defense. And I like what Dan Campbell has done this season. I think that Dan Campbell, like for one game, I would take him over Kyle Shanahan, not in terms of like implementing a system, but I think he's definitely more analytically friendly, and Shanahan tends to make bad decisions like what he did in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, like dropping Matt Ryan back when all he had to do was run the ball a couple more times, you win the game. So I don't trust Shanahan in a big game. I just think this roster offensively is too good, even with Debo limited, for what the Lions have shown us defensively.
All right, we're riding together on the Niners. Prop for us, Brian. What do we have?
Yeah, I have Kittle over 61.5 receiving yards. The reason for that is Debo is banged up. Cade Cotton last week, 5 for 65. And this Lions team, like if you look through the numbers, they love to stay in base coverage. So if they're staying in their base coverage, you're going to get smoked by George Kittle if he's going up against a linebacker. So, and I feel like these Niners guys, it's just like every week one of them has a big game. I just feel like this week it's going to be Ayuk and Kittle because of the fact that you're dealing with the Debo Samuel situation. So I like Kittle to have a big game in this one.
I am totally on board with Kittle. Like him to score a touchdown, like the receptions, like the yards across the board. Okay, I'll let you choose on this one, Brian. What do you like more? Your regular parlay, your long shot parlay? I know you gave us both, but let's condense a little bit. We only got time for one. Which one do you like more?
Let's do the long shot parlay then. Plus 479.
That's more fun. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Lamar, 40 rushing yards, which that's pretty obvious. Mahomes over 27.5 rushing yards. I feel like in these big games, he has like one or two big scrambles, and maybe he has one that's like 15, 16, 17 yards. So that gets you close. Jahmyr Gibbs over 47.5 rushing yards. The reason for that one is if you go back to last week and you look at Aaron Jones's rushing chart, all his big runs are to the perimeter, right? That's where the Niners are actually vulnerable, not in between the tackles. You can actually run on them to the perimeter. And Gibbs is going to do that, not David Montgomery. Okay, so that's why I put Gibbs there, and then Ayuk 60 receiving yards. And so, I mean, that to me, like, I know these are a lot of legs, guys, and it's tough to hit that many legs, but I feel pretty confident about this long shot parlay at plus 479, especially if the Lions realize, hey, this is a Gibbs game. This is not a David Montgomery game. That's the one that I'm concerned about the most because of the fact that if you go back to last week, it's like 9 carries and 10 carries. They seem to split this relatively evenly. And then all of a sudden last week, by the way, I had Montgomery for an anytime touchdown. They bring the Reynolds guy. I'm like, is this Josh Reynolds the receiver? No, it's their third string running back. So it's tough to predict who they're going to put out there. That's the only thing I'd be concerned about. But if they want to run, they got to do it on the perimeter. And that's Gibbs because of his speed. It's not Montgomery.
All right, guys, before we say goodbye, very quickly, each of you with a weekly special. Sal, I'll start with you. What's the weekly special we like?
Odafe Owe, linebacker, Ravens from Penn State, the Nigerian. I'm going to say Nigerian Nightmare. I'm going to make up a nickname right there. So you never heard that before. Records a sack plus 285. He has 5 sacks this season. Gets one about every 3 games, but watch him. He's fun. He's almost there every single game. And by the way, he had a sack in 3 straight games in the second half of the year back in November, December. Watch him. Like I said, exciting player. Plus 285, I believe I'm getting on this one.
Like the sound of that house. Quickly, what do we got?
Fred Warner, 12-1 to catch a pick. Why don't we double up? Fred Warner, 12-1. Dre Greenlaw, 16-1. Goff is going to throw a pick. It's going to be in the middle of the field. Those are the guys that are going to catch it. 12-1 or 16-1. Let's cash.
I love it. Raheem.
Brock Purdy, interception, yes, plus 106. He throws the interception almost 3.5% of the time. Somebody catches one a day.
Barrett.
Alex Anzalone plus 380 most tackles. I feel like the Niners are going to run the ball a lot, so he's going to have opportunities.
Here's one, guys. Each team to score 1 rushing touchdown. Both games, plus 500. That's going to do it. Thank you, Brian Barrett. Thank you all for watching here. Bonus time, Ringer Wisecast. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Super Sunday. Until then, boys are out. Be good, everybody.